on the phone, you bird brain.
What do you do, backflips? You jump up there in a silly suit? What do you do?
Yo, bam! I want you to play that.
Attention all football fans. If you can't see your team play, come and dine with us and watch it live at Boardman, Canfield, or Cortland. Or staying at home, we'll deliver right to your door. That's Coca's Pizza. We serve it hot.
Oh, here we go. 3 o'clock and time to rock. What's up, everybody? Fast Freddie here, and we are ready to rock the house from the Youngstown studio here in downtown Youngstown. And we've got two guests today. First of all, we got Kelly Pavlik in the house. Kelly, good to see you, brother.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. And coming up a little later on this afternoon, we got our buddy Ace Acker, and he goes back to the days of the band Law. We're going to be talking about some Youngstown rock history, and we're also going to be talking about some of the projects that he's working on now. So Ace has been at it for a long time, and we're just going to keep on rocking. Mm-hmm. So Kelly, good to see you. Damn, are you looking good, man?
Thank you. Yeah, just lifting and eating.
I'll tell you.
And everything else in between. Yeah, I was speaking of rock. I remember, I'm younger, but still getting older now. 20 years ago, we used to go down Pie Street.
Oh, yeah.
We had a rock group that was out of our school. You know, they were 17, 18 years old, and we watched them play down there. It was a good time.
Who was that?
Their name was Reveless.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah,
down the Pyatt Street down under.
Yes,
that was a good time down there.
I think they shut it down a couple years after that, or maybe even a year or two after that. So
yeah. So who were some of the other bands you were checking out when you were, at that age?
I was growing up young. When you get into the music, I was fortunate enough to have the 80s. There was Cinderella, Rat, Bon Jovi had some, White Snake. And then I got into a little bit of the rock scene. You had rap, NWA.
Oh yeah.
And then who else? You had Pantera and groups like that I kind of got into.
And then you became friends with some rock stars, right? With Dave Grohl.
Oh, and we're still in. I'm close with Chris Shiflett, the guitarist for Foo Fighters as well. Him, Josh Todd with Buck Cherry.
Oh yeah.
And then one of my favorite groups, Avenged Sevenfold. Got to hang and pal around with them guys. So yeah, a handful of them.
So what is it with rockers and boxers? They seem to go together, man. You got Sammy Hagar, you got all these guys out there.
Actually, this kid right here, Virgil Ortiz, he's a hell of a world champion now and a good friend. And he actually made me jealous because he got to a hangout and they were talking with Avenged Sevenfold because he's a big music guy and they're big fans of him too. I don't know. It all goes hand in hand. So
it's just, maybe because it's loud, it's, rowdy and, down and dirty. Yeah, that's cool. So how did you hook up with these guys from like the Foo Fighters and stuff? How do these guys get in touch with you? Is it you're just out, or they say, hey, we're in Youngstown, I know this guy? Or
yeah, well, funny story on that. Buck Cherry, actually, they came in one time and they're big boxing fans. Josh Todd, and they called and wanted to come to the gym and work out and get a little lesson from me. And when you're especially at that time, Buck Cherry had that big hit song.
Oh yeah, Crazy Bitch, yeah. And the other one,
that slow one.
Yeah.
So, and then they were touring with Avenged Sevenfold, who I was a huge fan of, and that's how I got to know Avenged and a little bit. And I was training Josh Todd and them, and they came and they said they let me go to the show that night. Then you had Foo Fighters, Chris Shiflett. Well, Dave Grohl has some ties to the area.
Yeah.
And then Chris Shiflett, is the guitarist, is a huge boxing fan, and he invited me, and we went there and just had fun and BS. And actually, when I was training in Oxnard, which ain't that far from Chris Shiflett's home, he came to that gym a couple times to watch me train. So
that's pretty crazy. Yeah, Josh Todd, he's originally from like Wampum or Elwood City, I think.
So, yeah.
Elwood City. I know when he played at Conneaut Lake Park, he had a bunch of his family up there, and it was pretty cool.
And then I just found out my Instagram. I'm not real big on my Instagram. I don't know how to use it. I'm still like the old school Facebook because it's just easier to control.
Yeah.
And
that's like old guys like us, you know.
And I got the group Hinder. You ever heard of Hinder?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they started following me. And
really?
The guy, they liked my stuff, and I went in there. I got curious, and here he had the blue check mark that they were verified. And, I thought that was pretty cool that they started following me.
Yeah, that is pretty wild, man. Yeah, a lot of great music out there. I'll tell you, Buck. Oh, All Lit Up Again. That's the one I was thinking of. I love the cocaine. I love the cocaine. Yeah. All
They
Lit
had
Up
a
Again.
slower one too. That was pretty big, I guess.
Yeah.
Good song. So.
I can't think anymore. You know, it's like that. My phone is smarter than me.
Yeah, you got to use that. So.
You know, it's really kind of crazy because even like with trivia or something, somebody will say, "Hey, what was the name of that band?" Before I used to be able to just it's because I'm getting old, but before it was I just rattle those things off the top of my head. Now I just look at my phone and go, "Yeah, that was this or that." I
can't get anywhere anymore because of that. I remember, like I said, I mean, right before the GPSs all came out, you know, it was right between the big map when I was a kid and GPS. You had where you could just go on the computer and it printed out the directions for you. Now I rely so much on the GPS. I mean, even if I know how to get there, it's just easier to put. GPS
I know. Even if you're going over to like Grove City or something, you just put it in and you know where you're going. But
it tells you if there was a cop, potholes,
right?
You know, everything. So
broken down cars on the side of the road. Yeah, no, it is crazy about that. You know, like remember that back in the day, you'd have to pull out a road map and look at it.
Yeah.
And go, okay, we're gonna have to go here. I can see my old man doing that kind of stuff.
Thank God, by the time I was driving, that they had the computer where it actually just broke down. And it told you step by step where to go. So.
Yeah. So what was the first concert you ever went to, or one of your most memorable?
To be honest, I really didn't start going to concerts till I was out of high school. I mean, I went to there was a local group. Actually, it was a boxer, Billy Smoltz. He had Tilt 360. They actually made one of my highlight roam songs. Then that group that I was telling you about when I was a kid or high school, I would say the first one I think was Korn.
Okay.
Korn, and I went to see them, and they played at the Cavelli Center, and that was it. From there, I started going to like the Mayhem Fest in Pittsburgh, and we actually another one I got to hang out with Mudvayne.
Oh, okay.
So we took my RV and had it all decked out. We parked next to them.
Oh, no kidding.
The next thing you know, they got curious and wanted to know who was able to park their RV next to their tour buses, and the guys that were putting it on. We were able to talk to them. My PR person called, and then they invited me over. They found out who I was, and they invited me over to hang out for a little bit after.
That's so damn cool, man. I mean, you know, this guy from Youngstown hanging around with all these cats, man.
Well, it's surreal sometimes, but you know, when you're into it, you know, it happens. So it's a few of the perks. So
you like that little harder rock then?
I do. Now that I'm getting older, to be honest with you, I still like the group Avenged Sevenfold and some Disturbed and Slipknot, but I don't listen to it as much. I'm kind of going back to the 80s and stuff like that, or the old school rap. I call it old school, the 90s, and you know, I'm kind of going back to that. You know, I understand that the screaming and the hard metal, them guys are very talented, and people don't understand that. But it's a little too much for my ears anymore. So.
I can't see how some of them guys sing like that. I like that kind of music too, but you know, it just when these guys.
I'm not knocking. You know? I'm not saying by any means that I'm old. It's just you know, I think it's every decade. Everything changes with people, and your taste for certain things change a little bit. And you know, I'll still listen to it once in a while if I got to get pumped up. Real quick. But I'm more into. That's why I like Avenger, hard rock, but they're border screaming, but very melodic and at the same time, and that's kind of what I'm into.
So like when you were really training and stuff, was there anything you would play or listen to get you pumped up? Or
here and there, but I used to make a lot of people mad at the gym because I was a realistic as much as I could be type guy. So a lot of people liked training to music and everything, but I always felt like when you fight, you don't have music, you know. And what happens when you're training, you get a lot into that mode. You're moving to the song and this and that. Well, fight night, you don't got a song to get moving to. So I try to keep it as real as I can. When I would run, I didn't put no headphones on. I actually got inside my own head and the scenery and everything else. And that's how I trained, you know. I'm not saying it was the best way to do it. It was just my
Oh no, that's pretty interesting. Interesting take on that. Interesting take on that. Now you grew up on the South Side, right?
Yes, I
Cornell
did.
Street.
Yep.
And you know, right by Wilson High School. Now I know you went to Lowellville, but you know, growing up in that neighborhood, are you young enough to or old enough to remember like the Hollywood Tavern, Margie's Pizza, anything like that? What are some of your?
I've gotten in big fights over Margie's Pizza.
Okay.
I do remember Margie's. Now my grandparents, they lived on Taft.
Okay.
Avenue, right down the street from the Hollywood. So of course my dad, he knows of that and everything else. I remember when Hollywood, being a kid, and I think the last big incident that happened there, because it became a tough place to hang out at. And I remember seeing something on the news and they shut down. That had to be 90, 91 maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and so my grandmother and our house on Cornell, Margie's was like right in the middle. And I remember the older lady and the old wooden cash register that they had.
Oh yeah.
And I loved it. It was an amazing pizza. And the big argument with Youngstown people is, what pizza was better, Petrella's or Margie's?
I know.
And I was able to taste Petrella's as I got a little older because they stayed open longer.
Yeah.
And the only people that say Petrella's are the ones who lived in the Brownlee Woods and probably didn't have. I think Margie's was super good.
Oh, I do too. That used to be the big thing though, when I was really young, Petrella's pizza, because it was 10 cents a slice. They would have the coupon in the paper, and so we had 5 kids, so of course we were going with that. And the thing I didn't like about Petrella's though, I thought it was a little too soupy.
I agree. You look back at it, not being mean, I thought it was like a little better Pizza Hut or Papa John's as far as pizza.
Yeah.
It was good, and it was really feasible for families, and that's what was big about it. Margie's, that was a real pizza.
Yeah, I think Margie's was hard to beat, and she was such a nice person. And then her husband Rocco had that shoe repair shop right next door. I can still remember walking into that place. I used to love going in there because I could still remember the smell of that place, with the leather and the rubber for the soles and all that kind of stuff. I could still remember exactly what that place used to smell like. And I remember it was a big thing for us when you'd go back to school. If you didn't get a new pair of shoes, you'd have to get new heels and soles put on your shoes. People don't do that anymore.
Yeah, my brothers, they went to Wilson, but they were a little younger, so my brother remembers Margie's a lot better than me. Like I said, I was really young. But I remember how good it was because my parents would get it. We used to have our big Fridays were pizza. So, and where kids today don't have that. Like my kids, they never have nothing to look forward to because we get pizza 2 days a week.
Right.
You're in a hurry. Oh, just call and order pizza. We used to have a movie night growing up and pizza. And if it wasn't pizza, it was homemade tacos to have my parents. Yeah. And then we go to my grandma's and we stay over there on Saturdays. She had HBO and we'd be able to get the pay-per-view fights. And that's when HBO first came out. And we order Margie's pizza and you'd have it. And it was just so good.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes my grandma, she was an older Italian lady and she made homemade pizza, which I could compare it to anything too. It was awesome. Yeah. So it was fun. But so some of those things, I remember the biggest thing I remember from Margie's though, I was always obsessed with the big cash register because at that time, to me, I never seen a cash register like that, being a kid. And I was kind of obsessed with that,
Yeah, it's just one of those things growing up on the South Side, man. Margie's Pizza.
Yep.
Yeah, I still think it was the best too. I think that was really really hard to beat.
We had Pemberton Pool. I loved Pemberton Pool. I remember walking up, me and my brothers and my dad and my mom, and we'd have the towels over because for us it was only 4 blocks.
Yeah.
We'd walk up there and I was still young when that shut down, but I still remember walking up though.
Oh, that used to be a great thing, man. I mean, I practically lived there all summer, when I was at, when I would go there and would go swimming. If you got there early, they had the early swim when the water was still freezing. And then later in the afternoon, it was a dime to get in and you'd put your clothes in those metal baskets and they give you that tag. And then on the way home, you'd stop over at the baseball field, get a snow cone, watch the game. And,
I used to be able to listen to my brother when he played. I was, again, younger, and I remember we were so close, I could actually hear them announce his name from my backyard because the loudspeaker was so loud. So
I'll tell you, that was such a great area and such a great place to grow up, man. When I think of the South Side, it's just I have so many great memories. I don't look back with any kind of regrets or anything. It's man, I couldn't imagine growing up any place else than where we did.
Area, especially there, it was just so nice. You were still fairly close to everything. I mean, Boardman, if you had to go, even when I was young, there was still a lot of shops just in downtown and just around, good restaurants and little places like that. Unfortunately, a lot of that's disappearing, but Lansingville, it was a nice area to grow up.
Oh, it was a great place to grow up. Now, how did you first get into boxing? What got you into boxing?
Sports, growing up where I did, a lot of kids in the neighborhood, and I would play football. I played football, Pee Wees till I was 12, I played baseball till about 16, 17, and they were I loved them and they were fun. But also at that time, the martial art movies, the late 80s, early 90s, you had the Jean-Claude Van Damme kickboxer and No Retreat, No Surrender. Karate Kids were big. And I was watching those, and I constantly be flying around the house throwing kicks, like a Ninja Turtle. And my dad, he'd be like, geez, oh man, we got to get this kid somewhere. They didn't want me boxing. My older brothers, they wanted me to go. My brother Michael was 6 years older. My brother Ricky's 4 or so years older than me. They went, they weren't serious, but as a young kid, you want to follow what they're doing. And my brother Michael and Ricky were phenomenal athletes themselves. So finally, I kept tugging at my mom and dad. Hey, let me go to the gym. Let me go. And they let me go.
So where'd you first start training?
We started off martial arts. Didn't like it. It wasn't for me. Went to Southside Boxing Gym where Jack Lowe's over on Erie Street. And Jack wasn't there. Harry Arroyo was in there. My mom took me. And I didn't know anything about Harry Arroyo. I didn't really know. I knew Ray Mancini, but through just a word. Right. If you would have told me he was a boxer, I probably would have told you he was a baseball player. So I knew the history and everything, and it was kind of cool, that I got to meet Harry Roy. My mom told me after. And then finally, they let me go. They let me go to the gym, and after a couple of days, Jack sparred me fairly early, and I got my butt whipped. And I think my parents were happy about that because I think they
okay, that'll get him out of it. And now you've been there, you've done that. Okay, now let's move on to something else.
And I didn't. I came home the next day and went to my room and put all the clothes in my gym clothes in the bag and came out. My dad goes, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm going back to the gym to kick that kid's butt." And kind of from there, it was just, I was in it. I still played football. I still played baseball. But boxing, I kind of was like my main. I knew right then and there that that's what I wanted to do.
That's when you were going to do it. So what do you consider like your first big fight, or what was your first like official fight? Now I'm having a little bit of a brain fart now. Now did you fight in the Golden Gloves?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
But we got the Golden Gloves. That's kind of like the joke, the inside joke that a lot of boxing people, my uncle fought Golden Gloves.
Yeah. Yeah, my brother fought Golden Gloves.
The Golden Gloves, it's just a tournament, It's actually one of the smaller tournaments in boxing and amateur boxing. So yeah, I did fight Golden Gloves when the very last year they had it at the Fieldhouse, 94. I fought in that, and I knew there I won the first kid. I think actually where I knew I was good was my very first amateur fight. I fought a kid that was a 2-time Ohio State Fair champion in Columbus. I went there and I beat the crap out of him. And
then you knew you were on your way.
I knew I was good at it, but I didn't really know until that came about 16 years old when I knew this was going to be when I started really whooping everybody's butt. And I won 3 national titles and things like that. With a little bit of experience that I had, I knew that by putting more work in and getting more fights and experience that I would be a world champion or somebody, a name out there in boxing.
Oh, that's very cool. That's very cool. I still remember though, like, because I'm a little older than you, but boy, I remember the heyday of the Golden Gloves. That used to be, even when it was at South Fieldhouse and then moved to Struthers. I mean, that was it. That thing would sell out. Every politician, every mobster, everybody in Youngstown would be there, and fights in the stands. Some of them people get all fired up. And
you just told me some of the names of people I know, and I didn't go to those. I was definitely too young. But I could understand the magnitude of it because of being involved in a sport and at all these different tournaments. So when I heard the stories about it, I mean, the people that fought in it and just the amount of people that went to it, it was a packed house,
So why do you think there's so
promoting that? Oh man, I wish I had their pockets set for that.
Oh
for
man,
a little local thing.
Oh yeah. I mean, you sell out Struthers Fieldhouse, you sell out, South High Fieldhouse back in the day. You were putting some people in there.
You figure what? I think the Fieldhouse Struthers is close to 2,000 maybe.
Yeah, I would say.
Especially with floor seats, you're not talking about like a basketball game. You had the ring, and you're able to fit a good amount of seats on the floor.
So why do you think there's so many boxing champs from Youngstown? What is it about Youngstown and boxing?
I don't know. I mean, there's really only 5, but for the size of that we are, the numbers are pretty crazy. You got Oxnard, California, where I ended up training at the end of my career. They have a lot, but a lot of theirs were people who came from other areas to train out there because it's the hotbed for boxing.
Right.
Youngstown, you got 5 for such a small little area. I don't know. I just don't know if it's the area, the way you come up. But it isn't. And what's even scarier is a couple years ago, and I don't know if it's still like that, but we were #1 for most NFL players.
Oh, yeah.
Per capita.
Yeah, how about
But
that?
there's a lot of Ohio, Northeast Ohio. I think like 3 cities ranked in the top 5. I think it was Cincinnati, or Cleveland, Akron, and Youngstown.
Yeah.
Youngstown was #1. Then you had Cincinnati still, and Western PA was big. So
Yeah, it's
no
crazy.
wonder why this area on Friday nights,
Yeah.
this is crazy. As it
Well,
goes.
I think it's because we're a hard-nosed town. It's always been that way. There's no pussies around here. Everybody.
Oh, okay. So I had to watch what I was saying, but you're allowed to throw words out.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah. You could throw that out on
Hey, it's
here,
hard
man.
coming from my podcast where
Yeah. But that's some crazy stuff though.
I think that's the term you use, and that really is. I said it one time on HBO. I said on a countdown, nothing's given to you around here, though. That's the big thing. There's a difference, when you come from a big city where it's easier to make it. Youngstown is it's up to you. If you want to be successful, it's there. You got to work like anybody would have to succeed. And if you don't succeed, there's nobody really to blame, because it's still a good enough area where it's opportunities out there.
Right.
It is.
Yep.
So it's kind of what it comes down to, like whatever route you want to choose, I guess.
Yeah.
And Youngstown is one of them ones where people, it's been a steel mill. It's been embedded in us, and hardworking people.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So what do you think of the Browns, baby? What do you think? We coming on, or is this going to be our year? What's going on?
I don't want to be Debbie Downer. I mean, it was Dallas, a struggling Dallas, and it was Cincinnati and I think Washington. But on the flip side of it, our offense, our running game is just amazing. Now, when you start getting into the big games, I don't know if you're going to be able to rely on the running game. I think we had almost 50 points that last game.
Yeah, 49.
And we only had 145 yards passing. When you start climbing, against the bigger teams, you're going to have to do a little more than that. But let's take it. I think you had 3 games over 30 points.
Right.
I think they said it was the first time since 65 or 68.
First time we're 3-1 since 2001.
Yeah.
19 years. Could you believe that?
Yeah.
19 years to start 3-1.
So let's take it. I mean, I noticed some of them points were not like really strict passing and things like that, but let's take that. And that also, I think, could give our defense a little time to recoup and figure out what's going wrong. I think if we could tighten the defense up, we have a great season to go. I think
a lot more fun than it has been for the last 20 years.
Exactly.
A lot more fun.
I
A
agree.
lot more fun than that. Now, how about the state of boxing? What would you say the state of boxing is in the last 5 years, say?
It's been climbing. It has been climbing. I mean, the numbers, it's one of the higher for sports. I mean, as far as percentage of it going up from what it was previously. It is, boxing, you always get people, I don't watch it anymore because there ain't no names. Well, that's because you don't watch it anymore. A lot of people like to fall into their era or when they were coming up. People tell me, I don't watch it since you quit. And that's cool. I mean, that's a compliment.
Yeah,
I appreciate that, but you can't knock it and say there's no good fighters. Fighters today, they're actually the best they've ever been.
Really?
They really are. Skill-wise, I said this before, it's science, and if anybody argues, it's because they're naive or just too much of an ego for their time. Because we all had that. Like nobody was better than when I was coming up as a kid. Our era. No, they don't make football players the same. Guys today don't have as much pads. They're taking pads out of their uniforms actually to be a step faster. So I wouldn't say that they're wussies at all, or afraid. They're faster, stronger, and these boxers today, they can fight. And they don't run, they're slick, or half steps and making you miss and making you pay. There's a lot of big fights out there. You got guys like this Lomachenko, who's super talented, and Teofimo Lopez, who's super talented. And I just think if you could get it's been climbing. This COVID put a hold on everything.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it really hit boxing hard because the stands and the audience is a big part of it. But I think once we see when this ends, if it ends in November or December, this COVID, or if it takes to spring, I think you'll see it come back, and it'll be big. It's one of the sports. Boxing ain't ever going to go nowhere. It's boxing. It takes its bumps and bruises, and it comes right back. People say UFC. You still see when you get a mega boxing match like Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao, and your top UFC, the boxing still outsells for that mega fight. So that's still telling you that the mega star. Now, on average, yeah, UFC is bigger, and I think it's because of the structure that Dana White set up, and he matches better fights.
Yeah.
And it's more entertaining to certain people. Boxing, though, it ain't going to go nowhere, and UFC won't be the reason that boxing is out. You know, I think if anything that's going to hurt boxing is the tragedies. Like last year, there was 6, and 5 of them were on national TV.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, the UFC don't have that.
Right.
UFC is brutal. Don't get me wrong. Elbows, knees.
Yeah.
But the way it's structured is different than boxing. You know, UFC, if you get hurt, they stop the fight right on the spot.
Yeah.
And they have to, because you can hit them with something.
Oh, yeah. You know, you get
boxing,
some.
you get your brain scrambled. If you get up within 10 seconds, you can fight another 35 minutes.
Yeah.
Or you could get dropped, like the fight Saturday night. Both fighters, a total of 8 knockdowns. Each one went down 4 times. That's 4 times in a fight that they got their brain scrambled. And, you know, so the deaths are a little more in boxing, the brutality part.
Yeah.
Is there if anything hurts boxing, it's going to be that. You know, it won't be because the UFC ran it out.
Right,
Or Bellator ran boxing out. That's not.
What's one time that you think about the most when you got your bell rang? Is there one shot that you just sit there and think, how did I even get up after that?
Yeah, there was a lot of them. The one I didn't even get knocked down, Edison Miranda, he hit me. I mean, I felt everything leave me. And you smell different shit too, like, you know, you're like on a different plane.
Right.
He hit that hard. But yeah, Miranda was one of them guys. Everything he threw, you know, he hit you with a little shove. You know, you could just feel it. Sometimes it's hard to explain, but you can just feel the strength of somebody or the power. So Miranda was that guy.
Oh, that's crazy stuff, man. That's
I know
crazy
people
stuff.
say, oh, you got dropped. You know, when I tell them Miranda hit harder than Taylor, well, you got dropped by Taylor, but it's because I got hit in the right spot.
Yeah.
And you ask anybody in that spot, you could drop them, but Miranda was definitely hardest.
So what are you up to these days? What are you doing?
I'm all over the place. I'm all over, man. And it's a good thing. I have a fitness gym in Columbiana. I have a podcast. I got an app out that we're just starting to get ready to push.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
A fitness app. It's called the Sweet Science Plus. It's nutrition, dieting, meal plan. Then you get to boxing tutorial. You know, I show the combos, how to throw them. So the big thing about it, I think what separates this app is the nutrition part is a big part, because a lot of people, they start dieting, and after a couple of days, they run out of ideas on what to make next, or they can only eat so much chicken breast and rice.
Right, right.
We have a grocery list and a recipe list for you to, and then if you know what you're doing cooking, you could tweak it. You know, you could add something else in if you want, but you have a base.
Right.
So Sweet Science Plus is pretty big. A huge one is the sports testing that we're doing right now. That's getting ready to take off. I got my partner, Coach Leone. He did a hell of a job with this. I mean, he hustled and bustled, and he's real big with that sports testing. It's kind of like NFL combine testing.
Okay.
But we're doing every sport. And, you know, he picked up the AAU West Coast right now. We're looking at getting all of it throughout the nation. And we picked up a big resort in Mesquite, Nevada, that's going to host regionals and nationals. So that's really big.
Oh, that's cool.
The charitable organization that I got going is taking off. The COVID put a big dent
like on everything.
It did.
Yeah,
but you know, we could bounce back, and it's great. So what's fun about it is everything I'm doing is on my time. I've worked my butt off all them years to be able to sit back and retire and be able to do things on my own time.
Yeah, 38 years old, retired.
Yeah,
you know.
but I
don't know if I like this guy
there was
anymore.
a lot of work, though.
You probably put in the work that you put in all those years to get to where you're at now.
I could have found it another way. I probably would have took that route. So,
a little easier that way.
Exactly, but but at the same time, I'm busy. I mean, I'm moving. I'm pulling all directions, and I cut time out. I got my kids that we have a blast, and I'm home with them.
That's awesome.
So we're moving, and there's more things in the works too that I'm looking at doing right now. But I'm active, man. That's all I can say.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Well, listen, I know you got to get to Columbiana at 4:00, and we're running out of time. Kelly, thanks for stopping by, brother. Man,
anytime.
Good talking to you.
Absolutely.
And I hope we can have you back on one time.
When I get a little bigger and everything else, you have me on a little longer, maybe a whole show.
We could probably do that, man. I got other fish to fry here, man.
I know.
The world champion. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah. Always a pleasure.
Yeah.
That was fun.
And I know you got to run, and I do want to thank you for sticking around. And let's do this again sometime.
Absolutely, great time.
Yeah, awesome, man. All right,
fun.
man, Kelly Pavlik. Thank you, man. All right, now our next guest. Actually, you got to feel bad for this guy because now he got to come in and
he's the main event. I was the co-main event.
Okay, yeah. Now that we're done with the undercard, let's bring in the real entertainment now. All right, now you are gonna box Kelly here, Steve, just for one round here.
I didn't.
I used to box like play, and now I box donuts in the morning.
He's boxing tomatoes now.
My shadow usually wins.
Hey, Kelly, once again, thanks a lot, brother, and we'll get together again soon, man. Thank you for sticking around, man. All right, man. Kelly Pavlik, boy, what a good conversation there, man.
Yeah.
Awesome time. I know you got to get down to Columbiana, down to the gym. He's got some stuff going on. And now, round two. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the main event.
I'm shadow boxing. I'm a shadow boxer. My shadow usually wins.
Yeah, there we go. Our second guest here this afternoon is my buddy Steve Acker, Ace as we call him. And it's good to see you here, Ace. We go back a long time. Ace has been in the band Law for many years, legendary Youngstown band. And he's still out there like Kelly. He's still out there swinging. First of all, let's talk about this new project that you have going, and then we'll get out. Oh, excuse me, I'm sitting here burping on the mic.
That's all right. I'm not
we'll talk a little bit about.
Just don't just don't let it go out the other side because I'll be out of here.
So we're gonna talk a little bit about, first of all, this new project that you're working on, and it's a great new CD. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yes, it's called Delta Tales. It's by an artist who goes by the moniker of Sun King Rising, and his name is John Blangero from Newcastle. He has he was a prog rock guy back in the 80s. Had a prog rock band called Harlequin, which was very popular around Pittsburgh and that area. A real showman. He had a bit of a music detour along the way, where he became a genetic scientist and he's a genius. I mean, it's simple. He's one of the very highest rated scientists in the world.
Really?
At the University of Texas, and one of the branches heading their science department, research department. But he's continued writing music and playing music all along, and then till he got. I guess he stopped playing for a long time, and then he started hanging out in blues clubs in San Antonio, and got enamored with and started getting into that kind of R&B soul scene, and that's started writing songs like that.
I hear his keyboard playing. He seems like he's an excellent keyboard player.
He's excellent,
and I can imagine him, doing some of that Genesis and Yes and things like that back in the day. You could feel it in there. It's kind of like it's got that bluesy kind of like Memphis kind of sound.
Yes.
But then just listening to his keyboard playing, it's like, boy, I bet this guy could really take off on these Genesis things. And
and you're not done with that yet. Still, he wants to continue. Pursue that side of it, so he has
Well, let's play one of the songs off here. Which song do we want to play here?
The Free Will in China Blue.
Okay.
Is what we're regarding as the first single, and I'm actually been charged with producing a music video for it.
Okay.
In the coming weeks.
All right. Let's see. Which one do we want? Freewheeling?
It's called Free Will.
Okay. Yeah. Hit that one there for us.
Which one? Down here.
Yeah, he'll get it. Yeah, he'll get it.
All right. This was...
No, he'll. Oh, okay. Oh, I guess that's color coordinated. That's how we do that. Damn, Steve, you just jumped right in there.
I'm experienced now.
I guess.
My experience last week.
There you are. The artist is called Sun King Rising.
Sun King Rising. Delta Tales is the name of the album.
I am a Southern man. I lead a Southern life. Growing Southern cotton with my Southern wife. But I never know much comfort still somehow. I'm a
is a really good song.
My neighbors put the silver on the plate, and I pray to Jesus that he'll reveal his light.
The lyrics are incredible.
'Cause the Father lies expecting me tonight. Halfway to heaven, yet a two-step from hell. Heartache and hunger draw me to her well. Well, hallelujah, still hanging in the air. It's free will, she's free will in China blue.
It's a song about temptation, basically.
Well, that sounds really good.
Thank you.
Dancing barefoot in a sharecropper's house. Darling words fall from Salome's mouth. Moonshine and moonlight made me down my eyes. But nothing matters much when I hear your sighs. While the rustle of a blue dress fills the air. In the human night, I forget my place. Her heart skips as I untangle her hair.
I love the background vocals. They're the-
That's really good, man.
She's free will in China blue. Halfway to heaven, yet a two-step from hell. Heartache and hunger draw me to her well. Well, hallelujah, still hanging. It's free will, she's free will in China
Wow, what a great song there, huh?
She's free will in China
Man, what a great song. Sun King Rising is the name of the artist. And that one is called what? Free Will?
Free Will in China Blue.
Free Will in China Blue.
Yeah.
Man, that is a great song. And man, I just love the horns in there.
John wrote that. Actually, that's not on the CD.
Uh-huh.
Nick Katona, who's the head of the label, Peacock Sunrise Records,
Yeah,
suggested that we needed a bonus track.
right.
So I guess we did this in August. We recorded this in August, and he wrote this like that as a bonus track. So it's on. We're replacing one of the songs on the CD,
Right.
on the vinyl album. 'Cause
Yeah.
you don't only have like 42 minutes
Right.
on a vinyl album, and using that song as a bonus track for the vinyl album. So this is a bonus track for the CD.
Well, I like the way his voice sounds. He's got that smoky voice and those horns, man. I'm thinking like Ides of March and some of them great 60s horns bands. Boy, I mean, that's who's playing the horns on that?
I got lucky with that horn section. There was another horn section we used on a couple other tracks that weren't available or whatever, something. And so I found this. It's a horn section in Atlanta. I'm drawing a blank on the name of the horn section. We're gonna work with them again. And I found them on a hookup site, for musicians.
Yeah,
and
right.
And in like 20 minutes, I sent him a message, and he called back. I just was very impressed with the sample that I heard. I said, I think these guys can do this.
Yeah.
By that night, they returned charted the whole thing.
Wow.
Did the whole thing, and we got it for half price too, because he was they were just joined this site, and they were trying to get some action going.
Well, I'll tell you what,
we got a deal on it.
They could definitely get some business off of that, man. That thing sounds really good.
They're very good. They
Now,
do a lot of great work.
now, who all worked on that album? You did, and there was a lot of other people that were on that.
I think about 40 musicians,
Uh-huh.
players, and singers on the whole album.
Right.
We were started with John Safira, and he was the first guy I called and to do and we did a couple tracks with John.
Yeah.
And a bass player in Youngstown named Bambo Kino.
Oh yeah.
Both excellent players.
I think he just recorded an album not too long ago.
He did.
Right. I think he had Gary Markowski helping him out on that a little bit.
A couple of his videos.
Yeah.
He had Doug Thomas singing.
Uh-huh.
My old friend Doug. And,
right.
I forget the name of the keyboard player, but yeah, that his music that is a kind of a personal type of music about his mother and things like that.
Right.
And of course, it's excellently played and sung. And Bambo and John did a great job on the 2 tracks that are on the album. That's where I started with them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what we're talking about, John. Let's talk about John.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Let's. John Safara, of course, was the drummer for many years for Glass Harp, and unfortunately, right now he's going through a little rough time health-wise. He needs a liver transplant.
I think it's a kidney.
Oh, kidney.
I think it's a kidney transplant.
All right. But he needs some sort of a.
He's not in good health right now. And there's a Facebook page set up for John. Find John Safara. I don't know the name of it, but there is one set up. So
right.
Anyone who can look that up and as a fan of John Safara's from so many years, look that up and help him out.
Yeah, such a great guy. And of course, John with Glass Harp now, Glass Harp, boy, what a band they were. Legendary,
legends, yeah. I would say there have been thousands and thousands of bands in this area. Law was one of them, and we did very well in Left End. But I would say that the top dogs, of course, other than the James Gang, but they weren't really from Warren or Youngstown. They were a Kent band, but they played here a lot, were the Human Beings and Glass Harp, and both top world-class bands. But John also has played a very important part in my life.
Okay.
And I never really thought about it until recently and how important it was.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was 18, I'd gone away to prep school, Mercersburg Academy, for a year and a half because I was incorrigible. I was flunking all my grades. All I cared about was rock and roll.
Yeah, man.
I was drawing pictures of amplifier stage setups in the class. What are you doing there? That's not biology.
We're going to put a couple of speakers over here, and we'll have 2 mics, and we'll have the drum over here.
So I was just did not care about school at all. But it was really frustrating my parents because, I was testing, like, they used to do these tests where they would score you in percentiles, and I was always scoring a 99 percentile, which is like the highest you can get. And I said, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? What's against you study, I don't care.
Yeah. Now, see, back in the day, that was the thing. So you had these parents that probably told you get a haircut, put that goddamn guitar away, and get out there and start studying. Were they, or were your parents supportive?
They encouraged me.
Oh, they were.
The beginning.
Okay.
My mother, in fact.
Because back in that day, that wasn't always common. If you want to grow your hair long and pick up a guitar, it was like, get down there and, start studying. Where do you think you're going to go with that thing?
Well, it started off well. My mother took me, there was a music shop on right around on what's the street up from Park Avenue, that runs in front of the library, whatever that street.
Oh, okay, yeah, Main Street.
Main Street. And there was Bell Music was on Main Street. And Bell Music, I used to walk by there on the way to the library all the time. And they had this beautiful guitar on the window. And I learned later it was a Sunburst Gibson ES335. You can buy one now of that year for maybe $80,000.
And they had one right there in downtown Niles, and you're looking at this thing, and it's calling you. It has this power. It's like, Steve, pick me up.
It was. And I, so my mother took me to Bell Music to actually get a trumpet, to take trumpet lessons, to be in the marching band at East Junior High.
Oh, boy.
And I had the trumpet in my hand.
Uh-huh.
And Mrs. Bell was such a wise lady, bless her heart, forever. She looked at me, Steve, do you really want to play that trumpet? I said, no, I want to play that guitar on the window. I didn't think my mother would let me. Well, I walked out with a Gibson acoustic guitar and started taking lessons from Mr. Fink. Down a lot of musicians around here who might remember Mr. Fink, and that started it all. And and then.
So what was the first song you learned that you really got it?
I have something in common with Keith Richards on this.
Okay.
The first song that I learned, and the first song he ever learned and played in front of an audience, was Malagueña. Dum 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 dum. You know.
Yeah.
And Malagueña, and in a recital. Well, by in November, I was riding around in Howland with my dad, and this record comes on the radio. God, that was it. He lost me at that moment. It was "I Want to Hold Your Hand" by the Beatles, and that was it. My parents lost me forever at that moment, and that was all I cared about anymore. So I came back from Mercersburg Academy in the fall of for the end of summer in 1969, after spending 3 months adventuring around, because I was cordially invited. I have a history of this. I'm a troublemaker.
Yeah.
I was cordially invited. My grades were pretty good, but I was cordially invited not to come back.
Right.
For the next year, for my senior year. And so I left. I took off.
So now you're at the school though. You're playing guitar. You're strumming that guitar or whatever. You're in the dorm, or you getting an audience. You feeling the blood. You tasting blood, and it's like, hey man, okay. A couple people are coming in to see you in your room or whatever, and clapping their hands and that sort of thing.
That is where I really transformed and became a real guitar player. And Gary McCoy, who was in the Holes in the Road, the guitar player in the Holes in the Road, which was my first, exposure to really great band. Gary McCoy paid me, I think, the highest compliment that anyone has ever paid me at one of Tommy McCoy's benefit concerts at Upper Creek. And this was maybe 9 or 10 years ago, I guess. And he told me, you've always been like Robert Johnson to me. Wow, like Robert Johnson, king of the Delta Blues.
Yeah.
He said, yeah, Robert Johnson was not that good a guitar player or artist, and he disappeared for a year at one point. And when he came back, he had become Robert Johnson. And
right.
Legend was he sold the soul to the devil and all that. Well, so Gary told me, so you went away to Mercersburg Academy. It's in 1968, summers. And you were pretty good. You were kind of annoying because you were always had a guitar and wanted to jam with everybody. But we knew you were pretty good.
Yeah.
But when you came back, you were Steve Acker.
Something clicked. So what was it that clicked?
Well, there was a guy at school named Rick Nowak who was a totally undisciplined guitar player, and he had a Gibson Les Paul and Les Paul SG, and he played like Eric Clapton. He had this tone and this vibrato, this make it sound like he was like the guitar was singing. And he showed me how to play simply. With soul. And I got it, and I assimilated it somehow, and that's how it all came together. So, but when you went to this boarding school and you ran into this guy, and you picked up what he was doing, and then away you went. Yeah. Now we're going back to you mentioned the Beatles. How many bands and how many people did the Beatles in this world inspire to pick up a guitar? When you think about it, it's mind-boggling, at least to me. You sit there and think, because every interview, especially like guys that are our age, any guy, they're always talking about, boy, either seeing the Beatles on Ed Sullivan or hearing the Beatles, and it was just like off to the races. This is what I want to do. This is just so cool. This is just so amazing. I think every single musician of our generation was influenced and was prompted to join a band.
Boy, think about that. 4 guys from Liverpool.
And the Rolling Stones.
4 guys from Liverpool. They come out, they bust on the scene, and they just changed everything. Now, of course, a lot of people will cite Elvis, but I think it was really, beyond Elvis, the Beatles. They just changed everything. Now, of course, when Elvis came on the Ed Sullivan show and people saw him moving, that was something big.
Elvis was the big bang.
Yeah.
It was the big bang of rock and roll, no doubt. And his influence still is every bit as great as the Beatles in terms of
popularity and bringing the music to the forefront and being a mega star. But I think for actually inspiring people to pick up a guitar,
it was by then it was a different generation.
Right.
The kids that were Bobby Soxers and all who were listening to Elvis, that was in 1955, you know.
Yeah, so that's at the end. So you're talking about at least 5-6 years after
later,
now.
yeah.
These guys come on, and they're the next thing they're taking it to the next level.
The idea of playing guitar and having your own band, didn't exist back then for most people. But by the time the Beatles came along, it did. So anyway, to get back to John.
Oh yeah, John Safara. Okay, yeah, this is where we started on that.
I do
That's
this all the
okay.
time.
That's okay.
I tell stories.
Yeah,
like that,
no. Okay,
I'll
so
get lost. I get lost track, and then 2 or 3 days. I'll tell,
yeah, then you say, you'll come back and say, "Hey, did we ever mention anything about John Safara?"
Right,
okay, so now John Safara was an influence on you in what way?
Well, so I came back from Mercersburg Academy, and that was in the early fall of 1969, and I wanted to get a band, and didn't know any. I went to Champion Rolling to see the Glass Heart play.
Yeah,
and John did not know me at that point. He'd never heard of me or seen me before, but I was kind of cocky, I guess. So I said, "Man, I want to talk to you about it. I'm forming a band. It's really going to be a good band, and I'd like you to be my drummer."
Okay. Hey, that took some balls. Okay.
It took, yes. And well, I'm kind of tied up with this band right now.
So he's a gentleman about it.
But I know another drummer. He's never played in a band in his life. He's 16 years old. He's never played in a band before, but he's great. His name is Myron Grumbacher.
Oh.
And he gave me Myron's phone number, and I called Myron the next day. He came, his mother, Ruth, brought him to Warren, and we rehearsed and put together a band. It was called Dark White. It didn't last very long. But then Jeff Jones, and is one of the pivotal figures and important figures in music, in the Mahoning Valley music, is Jeff Jones. He was a manager. He managed Glass Heart at one point or another, Blue Ash, a lot of local people. And he wanted to put together a band with me and Myron in Youngstown. And so we built a band around Myron and myself. We called it Hard Willow. And I had a car. My grandparents' old '56 Buick. And at this point, I was turned 18 at this point. And I wanted to go play with this band and be able to go and rehearse with the band. My parents would not allow that. By then, they had, although they encouraged it in the beginning, when they realized, hey, he's serious about this.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Kind of like when Kelly was here a little earlier, when they took him the boxing lessons, and he got his butt whooped the first day, and then they thought, okay, good, he's not going to go back, and then all of a sudden it's like, I'm ready. So now,
if it's in you, you got to go back. You got to get up. And
yeah.
You got to get it back in the ring.
Right. So now you're 18, and now they're getting a little.
I was in my
shaky
senior
on
year
this.
at that time. I actually repeated my junior year at Mercersburg Academy because academic. And so I was in
You're a red
year
shirt,
at
red-shirted junior.
Yeah, I was at Harding.
We'll let him stick around for another year.
Right. Well, I was at Harding High.
Yeah.
And it was January in 1970 by then. And I wanted to join, and they said, you can either join the band in Youngstown or you can go back, finish school, but you can't do both, and you can't stay here if you finish. So I left. I took my guitar and a few clothes, all that I had, and I moved to Youngstown into a crash pad in Youngstown. A bunch of musicians, and that's where it started. And the band, we rehearsed the band and everything, and that's what made my name in Youngstown was Hard Willow.
Yeah,
and
of course Myron Grumbacher went on to play with Pat Benatar.
Of course,
for
of course,
people that might not know that.
I didn't. That Hard Willow only lasted less than a year. And I joined another band called My Uncle's Army Buddies, which was Doug Thomas, the late Roger Hatfield, and it was a 10-piece horn band, and that didn't last that long either.
So see that now, but you have this experience with these horn bands, so that's where this even come in from the Sun King Rising project here, because you were in a horn band and you kind of knew that.
And that's where it started, and it was awesome playing in them.
Now let's go back here a second. What was it like at a band crash pad in Youngstown in 1970. Tell me about how this whole thing was. Who was living there? I mean, what, for people that might not even have the slightest idea, what is like living in a band crash pad in Youngstown?
Well, I will tell you this. Enhancements were involved.
Right.
And a lot of them, we didn't care. We had nothing to lose. We had nothing, we were making music, and we had fun. And there was no, I know. I said, one of them, the first one I stayed in was with a guy named Chuck Puskas. He was a harp player. And I stayed with, there were two other guys there, 4 of us, I think. And Chuck was a harp player, very good harp player. Well, I was with my uncle's army buddies by then. And one night I went to a gig, and they decided that they were going to get high and go to the barn in Newton Falls. You know anything about the barn? The barn was where the Jesus freaks went.
Okay.
That's in fact where Phil Kagi got saved.
Yeah.
Was at the barn. And they were going to go to the barn and have a laugh at the Jesus freaks. Well, I went to my gig, and when I came back home, they were all talking in tongues. They'd all been saved. Hallelujah.
It didn't quite go as they had planned.
No, they got saved. And the next day, a couple of days, they'd thrown all my pot down and flushed down the toilet.
Oh, no.
And the next couple of days later, they said, I don't think you're really appropriate for this house anymore, because we're all saved and you can't smoke pot in here anymore.
So they went there thinking, oh, okay, we're going to go laugh at these people and they get stoned, and we're going to go ha ha ha. And the next thing you know, they're like,
exactly. So they asked me to leave.
Okay.
And I moved directly into the my uncle's army band house on Elm Street. It was a converted old funeral home, and we had a bunch of rooms, and that was a band house too.
Yeah.
And we practiced in the embalming room. So then the next one was on Hillman Street. And that was Tom Banky had that legendary roadie in Youngstown, who was deceased. And one night we had a big acid party, we had a ball. We were doing skits and just having a good time, and that was my memory about that, having a band house. And I think it was a very important rite of passage. I think it was a very important bonding experience, learning how to be friends with and hang out with other players, other musicians, and
of course, you guys were always jamming and stuff too, and so you're keeping your chops up, and you're learning new riffs and things like that.
Exactly. So, and then Myron went on, as you said. Here's another example of thing we were talking about on partying. I did also have a house in North Jackson, Ohio.
Okay.
Right on, I think, is it 46 or 45?
Yeah.
No, right off the square, the middle of it.
Yeah, 45.
I was there living with David Bird, who was Hard Willow's keyboard player, organ player, and one other guy. And we weren't, Jeff Jones had a rule with his bands, and no drugs are allowed, He was a good guy, really good guy.
And you say, what kind of band is this? I want to be in a fun band.
We pretty much adhered to that. We didn't smoke much pot, and we couldn't afford it. I was living on ketchup sandwiches then, And one night we had a bunch of people over to the house, and as they were leaving, the door busted. A cop busted in the door named Orlando DeLulo, who I'll never forget. I wrote a story about it. It's published. And the story of a bogus bust. I remember just being the ugliest man I'd ever seen with and a whole bunch of other cops, and they had a warrant to search the apartment, search our place. Somebody had informed them that there was drugs on the premises. He took me up at one point. We knew there was no there, He took me up at one point to my room, and you've been smoking dope. I knew who the informant was. It was this cute little blonde.
No kidding.
And she had a joint. We smoked it, and that's who it was. And I knew. And then they planted bag behind Fred Humphrey's drawer, and he didn't even smoke dope. So it was a bogus busting everywhere.
Yeah.
Myron, and they arrested us all. They took us down to Mahoney County Jail. Myron's mother came down, and she laid down the law. Orlando Orley was running for sheriff that year as a Democrat, and she was the head of the, I believe she was the chairman of the Democratic Party that year. And she told them, Orley, those are good boys. You release them right now, or you will never be elected to dog catcher in Mahoney County anymore. They released us on one condition, that we move out of North Jackson. See, we lived right on the main street. Where all the cute little high school girls were walking by, stopping to flirt with these rock and rollers, you know, and they didn't like that. The people didn't like that, and we're talking about 1970 here, you know, when it was still not accepted.
Oh yeah, I mean back then, society. Boy, when you think about people with long hair, you think about that whole. I mean, there was that whole redneck attitude towards rock and rollers, dope smoking hippies, and all that kind of stuff. And then they then they make that bogus bust though. That's the kind of stuff that pisses me off.
My mother woke up in the morning. It was in the front page of the Vindicator, or the Tribune Chronicle, and she, oh my God, she cried and. It was.
And then you wonder why some people get pissed off about the way they're treated by the police. Not everybody's like that, but especially back in a day like that too, when drug smoking, pot smoking hippies ruining our town, messing with our girls. We ain't gonna stand for that. That redneck attitude.
DeLulo was a bad cop. I've heard other stories from other people since then. Some of the people he busted actually did go to prison for possession. So he was a bad cop. But anyway, that's all my band experience stuff. And
okay, now let's fast forward ahead a little bit. Now, then when do you form Law? Because this is when things really start taking off for you, right? Once you guys get together and start and form Law.
Right. We talked quite a bit like that with Justine about that last week, but just to summarize it again.
Yeah.
I had left my uncle's Army buddies and moved back home to my parents' house for a couple months, and I got a call.
Wait, before we get there, let's go back, because what were some of the places that you were playing? What were the cool spots, and where in this time period when you were with Myron, when you were with my uncle's Army buddies? What were the cool hip spots that you guys were playing?
It was cool. I mean, we loved Geneva on the Lake.
Oh, still is great to this day. Yeah, I still love Geneva on the Lake. Where were you playing, like the Cove?
Well, I think the Cove. Yes, we played in the Cove. There was a couple of others. Pete Mackey owned these clubs, and we were playing teen clubs, and we'll get into that in a minute. I want to talk about what happened. But teen clubs and canteens and there was a place called the Bobcat Lounge on 422 in Warren, where I first saw Joe Walsh play with the Measles. So that's what we were doing, and I've gotten off track. What was the question?
Okay, no, I was just some of the places that you like to play back then.
That's that's basically what we played, and we didn't play at that time. I don't remember playing a lot of, although I'm sure we did, bars. But,
Well, like you were talking, you went to see Glass Harp at the Champion Roller Rink. People don't realize, like back in the day, like Champion Roller Rink and all these places, it was a big deal for these bands. I mean, you see Joe Walsh at like a roller rink, and the roller rinks used to be kind of a big deal for rock and roll.
Church canteens, church basements.
Oh yeah,
church in Warren,
CYO parties,
CYO
and
clubs, armories.
Yeah,
they were all over, and so I'll get into that now.
Okay.
What happened? We as youngsters, we had an opportunity. Packard Music Hall was a big one, of course.
Right. Now, you were saying one of the things that changed your whole life and really put you over the edge to get into music was a show at Packard Music Hall.
Yes, that was a big show. It's a legendary show to this day among people who were there. Four acts. Human beings, Glass Harp. I mean, it was New Hudson Exit, which was before the Glass Harp. It was the first time I saw Phil Keaggy, and the Holes in the Road, and the Measles. And they were all great. You know, they were all great. The place was packed. Phil Kagi, it was the first time I saw Phil. They came out. Sergeant Pepper had been released about a month earlier.
Uh-huh.
He came out. Phil was wearing, they were wearing Sergeant Pepper outfits.
Oh,
Phil had a fake mustache.
Uh-huh.
He's 16 years old,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And he had a fake mustache, and he looked like a small Paul.
Uh-huh.
You know, and
so they're in those suits, like the band, you know,
and then,
military / band type suit.
Right, and then Joe Walsh, to see the first time I'd seen him.
Right, with the measles.
No, I think I saw him before. I saw him once at the Bobcat Lounge.
Yeah.
And it was just blew my mind, you know, and it just drove me deeper into the whole business.
Yeah, because at that point in time, think about the talent that was on that stage. Okay, so you know, at that point, the human beings were like up there. They were like, I would probably say the upper echelon. And then of course you got Joe Walsh on stage, and then you got Phil Kagi, two of the greatest guitar players out there.
Yeah.
And what was the other band?
The Holes in the Road.
Yeah. Now tell me a little bit about the Holes in the Road too.
Well, the Holes in the Road. Gary McCoy that I told you about, he was in the Holes in the Road. Doug Thomas, who still sings with Memphis Soul Brew around here and a couple other bands. They were fine. One of the best cover bands ever, I think.
Yeah.
And they were very, very influential on me and many others around here.
And what does that say about Phil's guitar playing? Sergeant Pepper's comes out like a short time before that, and these guys are already playing it on stage.
I'll tell you this. I quit playing for 2 weeks. You know, I said, what's the use? You know, I can't ever play like that guy.
You know, it's funny you say that, because when I interviewed Joe Walsh and we were talking a little bit about Phil, that's what he said. He goes, man, the first time I saw Phil Kagi, I had to go, I went home. I better go home and practice a little bit.
Probably that night. May very well have been that night.
Could be.
You know, when he did.
Could be.
But of course, you know, after a couple of weeks, I said, oh, well, I was do the best I can. And I did.
Yeah.
Well, the postscript to that story is that, you know, what impressed me so much was the vibrato they were all getting. Fast forward to 1992, I believe it was, 91 or 92. I was living in Nashville and writing for some newspapers, and I'd become a journalist by that time. And I was writing for a local news magazine here called Speed of Sound.
Right. Well, Holly Burnett. Oh, yeah. Good friend of mine.
What was her name?
Holly Burnett.
Holly Burnett, right.
And she was in a band. She was in the country bands back in the day. And
right. Well, I did a series of interviews with local musicians who had made it big in Nashville. Jerry Douglas, you know, world's greatest dobro player, with hands down.
Yeah.
Bob DiPiero.
Oh, another great writer. How many hits did that guy have under his belt when he moved down to Nashville? So what was his story? What was his story?
Well, he was in Joy, a band called Joy. It was a cover band, and when he wanted to, he left Joy about the same time I left Law, and he was going to Nashville. You should come to Nashville and write songs. I'm a songwriter. And I said, I just gotten out of Law. I mean, just left Law. I was about to leave Law, and I said, oh, man, I got to take a rest. You know, I got to figure out. I'm not really a country guy. I don't want to. So I passed on that, which in hindsight was maybe not the best idea, but he became, he's one of the great songwriters. It took him 4 years though. He was doing guitar lessons.
Now, how do guys do that? They go down there. Here's a guy who was playing in a band in Youngstown, packs up, he moves to Nashville. Now you say it took him 4 years. What is the process of somebody? How do you have to hustle to get to that? Because I'm sure everybody and their brother is heading to Nashville at some point in time because they think they got a couple of rhymes and things. So what is like the process? How do you go, you know?
It was a much more wide open town then. It was much more invitational town. You could actually get in the door at that time, you know. But writing country songs is a discipline and a skill, and it takes a while to develop. Finally, after 4 years, he got his first cut, which was "I Can See Forever." Clearly, "I Can See Forever in Your Eyes" by Reba McEntire. And it took another year to get his second cut, which was "American Made." My Baby Is American.
Oak Ridge Boys, sure.
Which was a smash.
And then if you marry Mel Tillis's daughter, that probably doesn't hurt anything.
He didn't need her. I mean, by then he was on top of the world. So she
probably liked him because she loved his music and loved his songs.
Well, but Yeah.
So it was more open, but you still have to go knock on doors and really hustle. I would imagine it's a big hustle.
I didn't do that in Nashville. When I did finally get to Nashville when I left, when I graduated from Mississippi College, and I got a job in Nashville, with an ad agency, and so I did, but I didn't really get into the whole music row scene
right
at that time because I was focused on the advertising. But
okay, so now you're at Speed of Sound. You're writing articles. Hey, look at that! I remembered all that. we are just not mindlessly rambling. Well, we are in some sense. Okay, so now you're writing articles for Speed of Sound, and you interviewed Jerry Douglas and Bob DePiro, and then
I interviewed Phil. I interviewed Phil Keggy as well for Speed of Sound.
I might have to go look that up because I still think I have that issue laying around somewhere.
He just released Crimson and Blue, which I personally think is his finest album. And John Severa played drums on that. So I interviewed him, and this brings me around to the point of my story with the whole thing in Acker Music Hall. Because the last thing he said to me after we wrapped up the interview, he said, what I remember about your guitar playing was you had the greatest vibrato in the world. I said, that was the one thing that I wanted to learn that I couldn't do, and I learned from him. And then he tells me that.
Boy, how awesome is that, man?
It was very good, very cool. And so anyway, then I moved on.
Okay, then we go to law.
Let's talk about, all right.
Okay, do you want to get the law, or are we still rambling on here? Not that it matters where we're going here. There's no format
there's some more music
or whatever.
So
right.
let's go with law.
Okay.
Right. When I formed law, first thing we did after and I talked about this with Justine, so I don't think I really need to go through the details of that, but we did by 1971. We decided it was time to go in the studio, so we went in the studio. Peppermint Productions. We have.
Oh wow! Hold on, man. We got this is big news here.
Okay.
This is a really sad thing, and I think it's going to put the damper on this. We just got word that Eddie Van Halen has passed away at the age of 65. Oh my God. That is some terrible, terrible news.
A lot of terrible news this past year.
Just add another thing on to the 2020. Terrible, terrible, sad news. Eddie Van Halen dead at age 65.
Did it say what he's...
It doesn't say. Wow. Cancer, I think. Oh, from the cancer. Oh, my God.
I hate cancer. So many of my friends...
Oh, you and me both.
To cancer. And I'll get to that in a minute, but we're talking about the beginning of law. And my heart goes out in my prayers.
Boy, I'll tell you, man. But that's welcome to, there it is, man. Eddie Van Halen, dead at 65. Holy shit.
One of the greats, one of the great guitarists, one of the most influential guitarists of all time.
Oh, man.
I think maybe second only to, Eric Clapton and Jimi Hendrix. He launched guitar playing in a whole different direction with the hammer-ons and all that stuff.
Oh, wow.
A great classic.
Boy, oh boy.
Yeah.
Boy, if it's not one thing, it's another, man. Continues just to show what a shitty year 2020 is turning out to be. Wow. 65. Man. Wow. Yeah, okay, yeah. This was battle with throat cancer. Holy shit. That's just, man. Wow. That's something. That is something, man.
Certainly is.
Wow.
I saw them play. No, I saw Van Halen play in Jackson, Mississippi in 1981. And the opening act was, I mentioned David Granati and Ernie I worked with on this album.
Oh, yeah, the Granati brothers, man.
The opening act was the Granati. They were calling themselves G-Force at that time.
Right.
They were the opening act. They were toured. They did that whole tour with Van Halen. And I was able to go to the show and hang out with them and hang out with Alex and the band in the hotel afterwards. And it was Valerie was there.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, it was a nice experience.
Yeah, the Granati brothers, man, they got it going on. Them guys been around for a while.
They're Pittsburgh legends, Hermie played with E. Taylor. E. Taylor actually sang, who passed away a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, of brain cancer himself.
Right.
And he was a Pittsburgh treasure, and he sang with Law at one point for about 4 or 5 months because Ronnie Lee Cunningham's voice,
Yeah.
he was having trouble with nodules and stuff. So
now we get back to Law.
Back to
okay.
the beginning.
Now you can even talk about the formation of Law. So for people that don't know, might not have heard, so how did this whole band come together?
Well, Mickey Williams, I left my uncle's Army buddies. Mickey called me up. I didn't know him. And I was still a Warren guy, basically, well, not really. And he said they were replacing the guitar player, and they had another, they wanted to know if they heard about me and all that, and if I would audition for the band. So I went down to the Green in Youngstown one afternoon. The band was then called Senior Runner and the Half Moons. We set up in the Green. Jack Gerchuk was there. We auditioned, we jammed together, and I don't think it took 3 or 4 minutes for us to know that we had something.
Yeah.
We had a band there. And Jack Gerchuk named the band right then and there. Lawrence, Acker, Williamson, LAW. That was it. It was as quick as that. So we went on. So by end of 71, we were ready to do some recording. And so we went to Peppermint Productions. Gary Ramey, another legend, another very important person.
Oh, I want to get him on the show at some point here too. Gary, good guy.
Oh man,
yeah.
Gary stories. Oh, he's seen everybody. He's recorded everybody around here, and he recorded us. And we did 4 songs, 4 or 5 tracks, multi-track recording. First ones I'd ever done. And we did one more. You can talk about that.
Okay. Well, as a matter of fact, this was like, you're talking about how like some of these moments affected your rock and roll, how would you call it? Your rock and roll influences or whatever, or one of those memorable moments where you said, man, this rock and roll is for me. This is what I really like. Well, I grew up on the South Side, went to Wilson High School, and Peppermint Productions was in the building right next door, right across from the Woodside Hospital. So you had the Nut House on one side, you had the recording studio on the other side. You had Wilson High School, which was kind of a nut house in its own right. Yeah. But anyways, a buddy of mine, Ron Sabelli, his brother was the janitor over at Peppermint Productions. And so when he was in there cleaning or whatever, he'd let us come in and, as long as we just behaved ourselves, sit over here, don't screw with anything. And I'd be in there reading Billboard magazine, and because I always read that. I always knew what the top songs were, and even at this young age. So I'm about 14 at this time. Yeah, I think I was in 10th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade. And so, we'd always hang out there, and it was just a fun place to hang out, whether they have polka bands in there. I was just fascinated by the whole thing. It was just a cool vibe, with the whole studio and, the control room with that huge board and, the reel-to-reel tape and just the whole thing. And I was just sucking that in. I was like, man, this is really cool. This is what I dig. So the one day, Steve's band Law is having their album release party there. And they have this album release party, and they're playing live, and they recorded one of the tracks, which
wasn't really an album. We never released these tracks.
Oh, okay.
It was the last track we did.
Right. Okay.
Album.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So anyways, they invite all their friends, and to me, this was a big deal because I was always into the whole music scene. I knew about every band. I'd always buy any kind of music magazine. I had the biggest record collection or whatever. Woodstock was a huge thing on me. So they're having they're going to record this live track, and they bring all their friends in. And to me, that was like my really first live up close rock and roll experience, because they had all these hippies and people in bell bottoms. If you could picture like what Eric Clapton and the Cream looked like back at that time, guys with big afros and, big, huge mutton chop sideburns and hair down to their ass. And it was just like this whole collection of all these people. And there I am in a room with all of them.
And you're 14.
And I'm 14. I'm like, damn, is this cool? I thought that it was one of the coolest moments, especially when you're growing up, and I'm like, this is where I wanted to be with these guys,
So we corrupted you, didn't
we? Yes. And it was a scene. It was really what they would call a scene or a happening back in the day. And man, I'm standing in that room, Peppermint Productions, they had all that different color carpets on the wall and these crazy things. And these guys are playing. And like I say, it was all these different cats and all these chicks are there, and it was so cool. And we have one of the songs that you played there.
Is it? I can't.
Yeah, can we get that song up? Which one do we need here?
I don't see.
We'll get them up there.
Well, I don't see.
Oh, go back. Let's see.
There it is, right here. We're gonna play it right. This is an abridged version.
Okay.
Actually, it was actually 15
Yeah, and I was here. If you hear anybody cheering, I'm on here. 14 years old. Peppermint Productions, crazy recording studio in Youngstown, legendary recording studio in Youngstown. So let's hit this. This is Law. I remember this like it was yesterday.
That's Mickey Williams on the bass, Steve Florence on the drums.
Oh yeah, I remember this. I just picture this whole thing.
That's Mickey Williamson singing.
Yeah, listen to that.
Smoking.
Whoa! Get it, baby! Oh, yeah.
There's the crowd. There you are.
There I am.
We gotta move. Get a little bit of boogie. Oh, it feels boogie. Oh.
That is so good. Damn.
And Steve Lawrence.
I hear me in there somewhere. Damn, is that good?
And that's only a third of it. I've added it.
That was a 17-minute
all these
jam.
different movements throughout it. We were pretty tight by that too, you know.
Boy. Yep. I was there, Peppermint Production Studios, 14 years old, and I was there as that whole thing went down. And I'm just picturing guys with, hair down to their ass and navy pea coats and bell-bottom jeans and buckskin jackets and guys that looked like David Crosby back in 1970. And oh, what a scene that was. What a happening, man. Boy, that music is so good too, man. You got that blues boogie sound. That sounded just like, something the Grand Funk would do. That would be right up there with
before Grand Funk and before ZZ Top even, but we were the boogie band at that time. So anyway, let's move forward to, if you don't mind. So I went through the whole thing with Law and all the Who and all that.
Let's get into that because that was a different thing.
Well, along the way, the band gained popularity. We did. Our manager Gary LeConte was part of the LeConte family that owned the War clubs. Because of his contacts, he was booking us in the major concerts with all kinds of bands from Edgar Winter's White Trash at the time to Bob Seger, everyone in the early 70s. And as we went along, we got our first record contract in Atlanta on GRC, and then from there, Roger Daltrey discovered the band.
Now, this is an interesting story, how Roger Daltrey discovered the band, right?
Right. Well, we had the band, we had released our first album on GRC, and our record company president was in prison.
Yeah, no, this is a good story here. Let's start there. I mean, these are classic stories. So you're working at this record company, and the guy that runs the record company was kind of involved with the mob and pornography.
Right.
Okay, so take it from there.
Well, he was. We did not know. We had gone to his house, which was a mansion, and later purchased by Dave Justice and his wife Pally Berry. There and
that's how much cash this guy had.
Yeah,
this was his house. Yeah. Okay,
and he was and he treated us first class and gave us tour support money and he was spending money like growing on trees. But it was for him because he unknown to us. Maybe so, I don't know. It's probably known to Gary LeConte, the man, but we didn't care. He had this whole porn empire around the country. He was connected with the mob and put peep show booths. He was the guy who put peep show booths.
Oh, put them on all over the highways.
All over, in the little porn shops.
Yeah, right. Oh, so this guy's a hero. This guy's a legend. Now you know the rest of the story. Yeah,
he was a bad guy, but he was good to us. But he was a bad guy.
Yeah,
we Law played for him at Lexington State Penitentiary, federal penitentiary, while he was awaiting trial. He was kept.
So that's the kind of pull this guy had that he could get you guys in there to play a concert.
Yeah, he got us in there to play a show, and he was beautiful Saturday afternoon, bobbing his head at the picnic table and everything, and then he escaped. And then by the time we got to it,
wait, he escaped from jail?
No, he escaped from prison eventually. And but at this point, by the time we got to Thanksgiving in 1975, our album was down the tubes. There was no coverage. There was no distribution. It had all been gone to his legal case.
Right.
Defending himself. He lost total. So we're in Tampa playing at a disco, and somebody asked us, "Do the hustle," and we were.
So after you made it to this
we were
point,
four-piece
and then somebody says, "Do the hustle."
Yeah, we were a 4-piece band then.
Yeah,
I had gotten a black bass player, John McIver, who passed away last December of cancer in Niles, Ohio here. And it broke my heart. It really, really did. So, and Ronnie Lee Cunningham, who was our keyboard player and lead singer, also passed away this year from cancer.
Oh.
And
okay, so you're in Tampa or you're in Miami. They want to hear the hustle.
We're in Tampa.
And the whole album went down the shitter because this guy's in jail.
Right.
Okay.
Kathy Sullivan, who was my girlfriend at the time, is still my dearest friend to this day. We lived in Atlanta then, and one of the guys who wrote one of the first songs on our first album, Jack Williams, who was a hustler and a songwriter, and a great chef, and he had hustled his way in to meet the Who and get friendly with Roger Daltrey, and Roger was planning a solo album at some point. So he invited Jack to come to his suite at the Hyatt Regency in Atlanta and play his songs. And Kathy went with him, and she waited downstairs. But Jack went in to play his songs, apparently. This is what I've heard and what he's told me. And he hit the cassette player, and it was cued to the wrong spot on the cassette. And instead of hearing Jack's song, he heard the first song on our album, The Old Days Are Gone. And I don't think we have that. Roger flipped out, and he called Pete Townsend in. He called Bill Kerbersley, their manager, in, and I get this call from Kathy. When we got home, I had a call from Kathy on the gig and all the press. Kathy said, "You're not going to believe this. Is Roger Daltrey wants to sign you." I said, "What?" and I don't recall the sequence of events at that point. But 2 days later, I and John McIver were met up with our manager Gary in Chicago, and at the Who's suite there, we met with Bill and Roger and Pete, and they offered us a production deal with their production company, and to sign us with MCA. The one in here is play live. So a few days later, we opened for them in Cincinnati at Riverfront Coliseum.
So what's going through your mind all of a sudden, man? Here
We weren't depressed anymore.
Here you are with Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend in like a hotel room or something.
And they're sweet.
And they're sweet.
Yeah.
And they said, "Hey, look, guys, we love that music. Why don't you open for us? Let's see what you got.
Exactly.
Meet us in Cincinnati and jump on stage."
Yeah, that's how it happened. And, I was by that time I had met many famous rock stars and was a bit jaded and not really that impressed.
Yeah.
But I was impressed with Roger Daltrey, the Who, with the greatest live band that ever lived.
Right. And there he is with the hair and everything.
And he was in the cover of People magazine that week. So, so yeah, we did the show. They signed, and it took a few months to do the deal, close the deal. And they signed us to MCA. By summer, we were in Miami at Criteria recording our album.
Criteria too. That's legendary studio.
On tour with them that summer, and we did, I think, 8 dates with them. 8 opening act dates: Washington D.C., Miami, and the Gator Bowl, and all that.
Damn.
Thing. So it was pretty exciting.
Yeah.
It didn't really, after 2 albums, then we came to the end. In my opinion, to the end of the line. We didn't get the hits. The singles. We fell in the cracks between. At that time, radio programming was quite polarized. You had AOR, album-oriented rock, and you had R&B, soul. We were too much of one and not enough of the other, or either.
Right, I follow that.
So we didn't. And there was another band, a fine band out of Atlanta, who were friends of ours, called Mother's Finest, who also had that same problem. Integrated band, integrated sound. They got to deal with Epic, but they basically never made it for.
Right now, I remember you saying there was one rule about touring with the Who.
Exactly. Yeah. One rule.
And that rule was?
Don't give Keith Moon any drugs. So if you give Keith Moon drugs, he'll ask you. You're off the tour, no questions asked. So.
And did he? Did he ask?
Yes, he did. That's the first thing he asked me on the first live show that we did, which I think was in Washington D.C. I don't remember. "Hi, mate. You got any drugs?" And I said, "No." And he called me, I can't remember, he called me an effing wanker. "You are effing wanker." And I said, "I haven't effed or wanked."
Yeah.
Quite a long time, and I'm pretty horny, so send some of your leftovers my way.
Yeah.
And he laughed. And he put his arm around me. "You're my little buddy." Yeah. I need a little buddy. And no, we never gave him any.
So that was kind of the thing, though. These guys tell you that, and the first thing out of his mouth when he meets you is
Bill knew his client well. Yeah. Keith was quite a guy, but he was always nice to me. He's funny. He was, I enjoyed knowing him. I didn't get to know Pete very well. I only talked to him a couple of times. Keith, Roger, of course, was.
Yeah. So did you ever see, Keith do any of his famous shit?
I did not, but what happened after we had rough mixes of the album down at Criteria, and the Who were down there, and we had just played with them, and they were supposed to come over and hear the rough mixes of the album, and didn't make it because Keith they discovered Keith unconscious and bloody in his bathroom at the
again.
What the big hotel, the Fontainebleau, and rushed him to the hospital. And so we never came to that. And he recovered. And
It isn't some of them guys that just bounce back. Okay,
he did, but
you know,
eventually he did not. Bounce
right,
back.
right.
That broke my heart as well. So then I went, after I left the band. A couple years later, I was just not satisfied with the way things were going. I didn't feel we were capitalizing as well as we could have on the opportunity. There were record company.
Yeah.
So I left and moved to Jackson, Mississippi. My father was with Acker Electric down there in Warren, and had been the director of operations. And I started a whole new life and a whole new career.
Oh, you know what we got to talk about before we get any further, because we're almost out of time here.
Oh no, shit! I got. I mean, no. I got to play some more music.
Yeah, the most beautiful picnic, probably
With
the
Chuck
first
Berry, yeah.
really big rock concert, outdoor rock concert in the Youngstown area. When was that? About 70,
That
71?
was in summer 71, I believe.
71.
It was an awesome experience, but. If we're running out, I told that story last week.
That's okay. No, yeah, you got to go with it. No, we'll get some music in. You got to tell this story.
How much time we got?
Yeah, we got time. We'll squeeze it in. We'll fit it in. Because now the lineup for this was like all the Detroit bands: Bob Seger, Ted Nugent, the Amboy Dukes, Alice Cooper. I think Procol Harum was supposed to play, but they didn't. And then we have Law and Chuck Berry, and you guys are playing with Chuck Berry.
We did. We opened the show, and then we came back later in the afternoon to back up Chuck Berry. Chuck Berry, of course, always used pickup bands, notoriously unkind and not a nice guy to most of them. But he had walked off the stage on the Raspberries a week earlier, so we were.
Yeah, Chuck was kind of temperamental, and he traveled by himself, just his guitar and a Cadillac, and come on stage.
You got to put the cash in his hand, but before he stepped on stage, and he was an irascible guy, but he was in a good mood that day, and he came on our bus and was just laughing and joking with us and saying, and it was just awesome, you know.
Yeah.
And he didn't tell us what song we were starting with, and we started with he started playing, and there were 5,000 people. It was actually a very beautiful day. It was one beautiful picnic, and started. Roll over Beethoven. Said, roll over Beethoven. Indeed, hit the 4. And we came into it just right. And he smiled. He smiled at us.
You got to be like, whew.
I got to duck walk across the stage.
Now, how cool is you did the duck walk with Chuck Berry across the stage.
Yeah, I played 2 solos. He gave me.
Wow.
He never gave solos, but he gave me a couple of them. So yeah, it was a fun experience.
Oh yeah, you know, and that was we could probably talk about the influence of the Detroit bands and the similarities about the bands in Detroit and their grittiness and things like that. Now, Bob Seger was on that thing. Now you've opened for Bob Seger and stuff. Any Bob Seger kind of?
Not really, but he was just a really nice guy.
Yeah,
we played with him several times, and he was a really nice guy. That's all I remember.
All right, before we play another song, quick thoughts. Any memories of the Tomorrow Club? What are your
Tomorrow Club? We played the Tomorrow Club a couple of times. I have some great pictures that from that club. And, by then we were not living in Youngstown anymore. We were living in Atlanta or and we weren't playing around here.
What was one of the most fun show you opened for? Would it be the Who, Chuck Berry?
Well, of course, you know. I sat on the side of the stage for every show.
Oh,
they were the greatest.
Damn. All right, let's play some more music. You know what? Because I want to get a couple in here before we split.
All right, so I want to do, on the second Law album, we did a song called "Take It Down."
Okay.
And John Bonjero wanted to sing it for this album, so we did. We produced a new version of "Take It Down." Awesome.
Well, so fire it on, man.
A player named Steve Schufert, who was John's cousin.
Oh, good friend of mine.
You know, you know Steve.
Well, yeah, that's why I looked on that. I saw Steve Schufert. I saw the Granati brothers. I saw John Safar. I'm like, boy, this is a serious
this track
project.
Came together very nicely. Hermie Granati is playing the Wurlitzer piano on it, and
let's hit it up, man.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we'll get 2 more songs in and we'll wrap it up. How's that? This is so smooth.
I'd like to show you paradise, but I haven't got the key. You never
having fun?
Yeah.
Okay. And now you're too blind to see. I see
so smooth.
Down, gonna blow it away. I'm gonna take it down. I'm gonna
Got a couple of local singers on this one. Ross Chapman, who sings with Memphis Soul Group, and Kelly Connors, who's kind of a jazz singer. They're singing background vocals on this.
And Lord knows I hope you find the light. Your world is dark and dirty.
That's really good.
Shadows in the night. You laid a bad foundation. You build your
That's Steve.
house with lies. I'm gonna take it down. I'm gonna take it down. Gonna blow.
David Granati and I are playing rhythm guitars. You know.
I'm gonna take it down. I'm gonna take it down. Gonna blow it away.
So smooth. So smooth.
Fine. Play with left hand.
Oh,
Dodge.
that is so sweet.
Still you fake it. You could turn it all around. I gotta wake you. I gotta shake you. And burn it to the ground. I'm gonna take it down. I'm gonna take it down. Gonna blow it away. I'm gonna take it down. I'm gonna take it all down. And blow it away.
Boy, does that sound good.
Take it down. I'm gonna
Is this a touch screen or how?
I don't know. How did you do the last one? I think you just gotta.
take it down. I'm gonna take it
'Cause I have a couple other maybe that's on.
Okay.
Here's Steve again.
Great guitar player.
Marvelous guitar player.
Well, that's a good song. Yeah, there we go. Steve Schufert there on the guitar, taking us out on that one. The song's
Delta
called
Tail, Sun King Rising. That's called Take It Down.
Take It Down. Boy, what a
can-
great song.
Let me put it. You can look up. It's the album on sale now for CD. Vinyl's coming out or digital download. You can look it up at Sun King Rising Bandcamp. Google Sun King Rising Bandcamp. That will take you to the page where you can buy it.
And that's an old song that you guys did
That's an
back in
old
the with the law.
Yeah, and then yeah, and that's I wrote co-wrote one, a ballad called Evangeline in the Morning with John and
Very
the
good.
Snake. Let's hear a touch of the Snake, just while we're at it. This is
Okay, throw another one on.
just a touch.
The Snake. All right.
This is the first song in that.
Come on in. Come on in. On her way to work one morning, down the path alongside the lake, a tender-hearted woman saw a poor half-frozen snake.
Is there?
She hurried home from work that night.
Is there another bank of songs?
Or how can you go to page 2? Oh, okay. Oh, Riding High? Oh, it's in there. Okay. All right. Then we'll do that one. We'll go out on that one. How's that?
That's called The Snake. Now I had a whole nother career in advertising after law and as a journalist and a writer and law. So, and then I did a lot in Nashville. I was a creative director for ad agencies in Nashville, and I did a lot of jingles.
Okay. What's your favorite jingle that you
this
did?
is actually my favorite.
Oh, this is a jingle here.
I'm going to play one of my jingles.
Okay.
There's actually 2 of them, maybe. I don't know how to get back there, but this was one I kind of liked. And I did dozens of jingles for regional, a couple of nationals. But this is one I particularly like.
Okay.
They're a little-known regional chewing gum company.
Okay.
Oh, that's not it.
Well,
it would be.
Oh, hit the red one.
Hit
the one next to it.
This one?
Yeah, right there.
Oh, that's Riding High. Well,
is that? Oh, that's Riding High.
We're trying to get to.
Oh, go back to that next page.
How do I do that?
I think you just is it touch screen? How can we go back to that? No, maybe with your mouse.
Oh, with the mouse.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Okay, all right. Well, here's one. This is a different one. This was I did in Nashville. This was actually what took me to Nashville the first time to produce a jingle.
Okay.
And then later, a few months later, I got a job in Nashville.
Okay.
This was for a shopping mall in New Orleans, and it ran for 25 years.
Okay.
Put on your shoes, yeah, put on your hat. Come to the Esplanade. Come on and get happy.
That's a New Orleans saying, where you at?
We'll light up New Orleans, we'll light up the night. It's gonna be just great. There's excitement in every store. What are you waiting for? Come to the
Well, I'll tell you what, you get some good jingles though. You can make some big bucks on those things, right?
They were all buyouts. I didn't. There was Nashville was a right to work state, so most of mine were buyouts, and I never really made. I was on salary, So,
yeah.
But I did date a woman in New York when I first time I went to New York with SST. I got introduced to a lady named Linda Pearl, lovely lady, awesome cello player and artist, and she did a jingle in New York. The first year that I did my first jingle, I did a single for Mr. Transmission, which was national and ran for a long time as well. I think I made $900 on it, maybe.
For the Mr. Transmission, no, that ain't bad.
No, it was good, but it was a buyout, so I had no
so you do it one time and then that's it, and
well,
you're good to go.
In New York, they didn't do buyouts, and I was strictly union scale, and you get every 13-week cycles you get paid, and then. She wrote a jingle that same year as well. And she wrote a little jingle called The Best Part of Waking Up is Folgers in Your Cup.
Oh, man.
She does whatever the hell she wants to do these days.
That
jingle's still running, since 1983? And every time that has been recorded thousands of times, and it's still running, and every time that, ka-ching,
wow, that is awesome, man. Well, listen, Steve, it's time to wrap things up already, man. That time just flew by. I want to thank you for, stopping by. And we could probably went on for another hour or two easily. But some great stories. And once again, Sun King Rising, tell us all about that.
Well, Sun King Rising, Delta Tales album. It's on Peacock Sunrise Records. It was released last Friday. It's a awesome album. I produced it. The artist is John Blanjero.
And it sounds so awesome.
And it's distributed all over the world right now.
Okay, and then where could they find it? They got a website?
Well, the easiest way is to look up Sun King Rising Bandcamp on Google. There's our sunkingrising.bandcamp.com, I think.
Okay.
So it's for sale there. It's also on iTunes. It's also on Amazon. And you can look up Delta Tales, Sun King Rising on Amazon. There are several other places where you can purchase it. And if you do happen to purchase it on Amazon, a nice review would be nice.
All right.
So,
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
All right. What do you want to wrap things up with? Hey, nice conversation today, Steve. I hope you had
I got to
fun.
get back to that other screen. All right.
All right.
Can you get it? How do you do
I thought you did it with the mouse.
I did it. I did?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Well,
I just lost it.
Uh-oh.
We got to find this.
Yeah. Can we get the screen back up with the songs?
I don't know how to. How do you do it?
Uh-oh.
We got to find this quickly.
Yeah. Maybe it's the live dashboard. Is that live dashboard?
Where's that?
Live dashboard?
Where's it? Yeah. We got to get to the other screen.
Okay.
Next screen.
Next screen?
Yeah.
All right. Next page.
That's what.
All right, there we go.
I got to find that.
Riding High.
Huh? Just click on it. Okay. Wait a minute. This is I had a song with a company with John Hanty called University Jam with SST in 2012, and we had called University Jams. We were producing records for colleges, universities. I started with that with Bulldog Blitz in 1980. We decided it was a good idea, so we did EPs, and this was one we did for Ohio State that never got released because of the Hurricane Sandy. Stopped it, but this way.
All right, man. Steve, once again, thanks for stopping by, brother. We'll play this one out, and it's been a great afternoon.
No, that's not it. Riding High. How do we get that?
Uh-oh.
Well, we might not. When you find it, play it somewhere.
Okay.
All right. It's called Riding High in Ohio, and it was hard rock all the way, man. We did a whole bunch.
Unfortunately, got a technical difficulty.
Ohio State EP that's never been released.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You got to work on that. Get that back out somehow, man.
Windows of opportunity.
Maybe after the COVID, it'll get back in there.
Windows of opportunity open and close.
I hear you. Well, Steve, thanks again, my brother. I hope you had a good time here. I enjoyed sharing these stories with you, and interesting trip from day one, from buying that guitar and downtown Niles to all the places that it took you. And I think it's an amazing story. You got to write a book one day, man. I hope you.
Well, I'm writing a book with John Hanty.
Oh, you are?
About the music industry.
Awesome.
And
there was so much more I would have liked to talk about. We'll have to have you on again sometime. Just even Jack Gershock himself is just a whole, probably a whole show with what he'd done for rock in the area, and all the bars that he had, and then the Tomorrow Club.
Being in the touring industry business as the marketing director for SSC Studios in New York, I have a unique perspective on the shutdown and how that's affecting musicians and artists. And
it's been terrible. When you think about it. I mean, look at the concert business alone. Is this it?
There we go.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up here. Steve, thanks for stopping by, my man.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown's Radio. Programming. We invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow our Facebook page, or subscribe to your favorite podcast platform like iTunes or Spotify. This is original Youngstown content, and we would appreciate you sharing the videos and the word about us. Thank you.